Okay, so welcome everyone. This is more of a business meeting today, at least in the beginning. So here's the agenda for today. Clearly, we have a quorum. I like that to be reflected in the minutes. A quorum requires 5% of the membership, and that would be about 60 or 70 people, and clearly we have well over 100. So anyone here not a member of the club? Therefore, they're all members of the club. Therefore, we clearly have a quorum. Okay, so we can do some business today. I'd like to introduce Ken Szynski. He is replacing Jim Lindgren as vice president. And we'll go through the, thanks to Ken for stepping up like that. All right, we'll go through these quick, not too quickly. Here's my report. I was attending the Charter Club President's Council last week. There's been a continuing issue in the community about requiring universal liability waivers. And you probably have seen that in Lifestyles and in another of announcements in the various email blasts. One of the things that was concerning to the club, particularly the computer club, as an indication of, I think, poor thought on the part of some folks in the community, is that they wanted the clubs to enforce this compliance with this universal liability waiver. And what that meant was they had language that they were asking the clubs to adopt that said, we would not allow anyone to participate unless we verified that they had signed a universal liability waiver, which was putting club officers in the position of enforcing a compliance with this waiver requirement that is designed to cover the 9,500 members of the community. So last Friday, we actually brought this to a vote, and the club presidents roundly rejected that idea. And that doesn't mean that the board cannot require clubs to help with the process of getting compliance with large numbers of the community. It just means that the clubs were not accepting it without the board ordering them to do so. So right now, they don't have a plan of action yet for how they're going to enforce compliance with this universal liability waiver requirement. But that will be coming up. You'll be seeing a lot of this in February and March and April. And the idea is, the concept was that no one could participate in a club activity unless they had signed this waiver. It was more geared towards active clubs, active in the sense of tennis or pickleball or softball, things of that nature. But nonetheless, it was going to be for all clubs. And right now, that's been rejected by the club presidents. Secondly, they have created a new Charter Club President's Council manual and template for bylaws. And that's what we have something. They were suggesting that in order to have a quorum to conduct business and to spend more than $500, you would need to have a vote of the general membership. Now, we're a little different than most clubs. I would say there's probably 150 or 200 active members and about 1,000 members who are using us as a Geek Squad subscription. Okay? So, you know, when people are paying $2.50 a year for membership, you know, they have high expectations. So I objected to this and said that it would be impossible for the computer club to get 20% of its members. And they gave me some, I won't characterize it in a certain way, but they gave me some advice like, well, you could always run a Google form and try and get proxies from everybody. And I said, I got a great idea. You try to get proxies from 1,000 people. So basically, I was told, and it should be reflected in the CCP minutes for December, that the 5% that we currently have in our bylaws would be adequate for the future. The reason that it's important is that somewhere along the line next year, the bylaws of the computer club probably need to be revisited because there are a couple of places where it's uneven and it hasn't been touched in 7 or 8 years and needs to be modernized. But I've been assured that the 5% will be grandfathered in because of the special nature of the computer club. Okay. We have a new lab tech coordinator, Jerry Knight. Jerry is over here. Jerry, stand up. So everybody. One of the things you need to do is to respond to Jerry's emails, always. He's doing a great job. And thanks to John Sterling, he's sitting in the back there. John did this work for long time. I don't want to say how many years, but I think it's around 20 or more. And Jerry's taken over for them, and he's trying to get the schedules organized as best as he can. We have new lab techs that have stepped up, and that's great indication. We have new data membership data coordinators, Bob Spence and Dan Arandola. Is he the one here too? Yeah, there's Bob. Bob, just stand up for a second so people can at least recognize you. There's you. Bob is the lead on this, and Dan is backup. And I also want to recognize the fact that, just as John Sterling put in years in this, Joe Quinn did so as well for making sure that the database for membership is up to date, and we're all compliant, and you all get the emails you're supposed to get, things of that nature. And also, we have additional lab hours that have been relatively new. Tuesday, 6 to 9 p.m., Wednesday, 1 to 4. We're still working a little bit on transitioning to what kind of services we can be assured of providing. So at one point, we said, oh, gee, this is only for people who want to use the equipment. And then we had more volunteers for Tuesday night. They said, well, we can handle some problems that people are experiencing, just as they would on Monday and Thursday. So it's still a little bit of a work in progress. So just be patient with that as we find our way. But right now, we're probably going to continue this through the end of the year and then evaluate it. So now there will be 4 sessions, one each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, adding these 2 hours of service. And again, that's a lot of that is due to people stepping up and saying, I'd like to do more, and also Jerry and his crew organizing it so that we have some assurance that when you do come on a Tuesday night, there will actually be people there, or Wednesday afternoon, which is always great when you expect service like that. So here's a financial report, just a skeleton of it. Doug Daigle, our treasurer, is available for questions. Right now, we have a little over $23,000 in the checking account. We have 2 $5,000 or so CDs maturing on January 4th. So effectively, by January 4th, there will be about $34,500 available for in a checking account. We have another CD that's maturing in May, and basically we have $38,000. Now that has been built up over the years because I have found that the Computer Club board is extremely careful with the resources of the club. They toss around nickels like manhole covers, which is an old expression, and they're really quite careful. And we've contributed almost $1,100 to the Grafton Food Pantry. Harriet Ford, who coordinates a lot of the fundraising for the Grafton Food Pantry, spoke to the CCPC meeting, and she did specifically recognize the Computer Club's contributions. They are in tough shape, folks. As you might imagine from reading all things about the news. And I just encourage people that if you have some questions about where to put some contributions for your fellow residents of this area, it's a great charity and deserves support, as so many do. Is there any questions about this? Because this is going to be critical to the next slide about why are there so many reasons? Why is there so much there? The Computer Club, along with softball and the theater club, they all have a lot of money in reserves, mainly for a variety of reasons. The theater club always needs to pay forward before it gets ticket sales to cover things. The softball club, we're not quite sure what they're saving that money for, but it's always there. I keep my eye on Chuck Hunt to make sure I get his travel schedule. Now, seriously, every year when we file a financial report in January, if any club has excess amount of funds, excess meaning kind of more than a couple $1,000s, you have to tell them why you have so much money in reserve. And the answer for the last 5 or 6 years has been, well, we have this money in reserve because we're going to have to replace our equipment one of these days. Now, when you think about it, the annual revenues from dues for the Computer Club, on an average, they vary a bit because of the cycles of who's up for 3-year renewals and things like that. But on average, it's about $7,000 or $8,000 a year. So basically, money has not been spent in 5 or 6 years. That's what this really means. We're collecting $7,000 or $8,000 a year, and nothing is going out, which raised the question about why, or is it time to really address the issues of equipment. Left one more time. Any questions about the state of the finances before you move on? Okay. What's the current situation in the lab? Almost all those computers, those 16 workstations in the lab, are 8 to 10 years old. Windows 10 has been forced onto a couple of them. Forced is a kind of a technical way of saying that the computer geeks have done something that they shouldn't do, that normal people wouldn't do. So they force it on a couple of machines, and it works, but it's not an ideal situation. So Windows 10, as you know, is no longer being supported. Windows 11 is now the standard for PC-oriented computers, and these computers do not support that well, properly. The monitors are also 8 to 10 years old. They have low resolution. They have glare. There's been great improvements, as you well know. You all probably have 4K TVs by this point. No, I'm not sure if there's anybody. I'm not going to embarrass anybody by asking anybody got a cathode ray TV. You know, that you're trying to get your son-in-law to take out of your house because it weighs 150 pounds. No. Yeah. So there's been great improvements in monitors, and you know, as we get older, I would think that having good monitors is even more important for aging eyes. We need to be prepared for a future operating system, so we actually accommodate Windows 11. There's always talk that, well, Windows 12 is coming soon. Who knows what's going on, but certainly the current equipment is not adequate to handle Windows 11. Therefore, it's unlikely to be, say, adequate for the next 5 to 7 years. And we want to be able, we're not sure what the fifth bullet, so need to be able to support state-of-the-art AA capabilities. And what are they? We don't know, but we want to be ready. Okay? So not only be prepared, we want to be ready because we're not sure where this is going. We just know that the current equipment is not adequate. So what is the recommendation? The recommendation, we started back in September, I believe. We created a small subcommittee chaired by Shelley Goldberg over here. And Shelley got Richard Shea and Frank Geister and Jerry Knight, Dave Dawson, and occasionally others would come in. I may have missed somebody here. So maybe I attended one meeting, somebody else may have attended a meeting too, but that was the core five. Is that fair to say? Did I miss anybody? Okay, just want to make sure that everybody was recognized. And that contribution, they met, I would say, 3 or 4 times at least for a couple hours at a shop, trying to figure out what would be the best way to equip the lab to accommodate future needs. And this was their recommendation. Now remember, we're talking about 16 workstations. They said, let's do 12 with 11 Windows Pro micro desktop PCs. We're going to get 4, we're recommending 4 Apple Mac Minis so that the Apple people can be accommodated as well. But these will be Mac Minis that can also mirror Windows programs. In other words, it's a Mac Mini that can be partitioned so it can serve both as a Windows computer and as a Mac computer. 16 monitors and hardware. The hardware really involves how they'll be mounted, and also we have some innovative ideas about how to mount them to make sure that we have workspace for people so that the desktops, the workstations would not be dominated by the monitors. We may have swing out arms and things of that nature. And then miscellaneous hardware, software installation that got into some details that we were not ready to do that. So what was the ultimate conclusion? That we'd like to spend up to $24,000. We don't have precise numbers on this, but just to show you that, I mentioned that people are careful with their money. Shelley saying, well, you know, Black Friday is coming up, we can get some good deals. So getting precise numbers on this, but we think that the envelope or the umbrella of $24,000 will cover this. It may come in quite a bit less. We didn't price out every bit of software and things of that nature, but in general, we were planning on about $1,500 for each station with a computer, a monitor, things of that nature. So the motion is to acquire new equipment for the computer lab. So the thing is to approve the SEC board recommendation to spend up to $24,000 as listed in the previous slide. That's the previous slide. And I would like to see if anybody would like to make that motion. Yeah, Richard Shea does, and second?
Second.
Second, Rich Brulé and Steve Klein. We usually don't take minutes at these meetings like this, but frankly speaking, I think.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Steve Klein and Rich Brulé. Okay, so it's open for discussion. Yes, Steve.
Mike, I didn't see the 3D headsets on
No 3D headsets. But if anyone wants to contribute that, because I got the feeling those are the kinds of things that gather a lot of dust. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but I'm not sure about that. So, yes, sir.
Is there any consideration for computer desks that your knees can fit under?
The question is there consideration for computer desks that the knees can sit under? I'm going to ask Dave Dawson to respond to that, because Dave, step up to the mic, please. This was one of Dave's concerns, because as you can see, Dave is an elongated person. And
I gotta bend down to get to the microphone. So I wore my low shoes today. I'm 6'3", and when I tuck underneath the desk, and Richard Chase, same thing. But that was one of my main concerns, sliding in and out of the desks. My knees usually hit the monitor. So one of the ideas we had, as he mentioned, was the monitors kind of being mounted differently. So we might have them mounted to the wall for the outside part of the desk, which can swing across in front of you. So it's not down below you, but it'd be actually kind of in front of you. So it might be easier to see. You're not looking through the glass, some of the glare issues. So that was one of the solutions that we have that we're kind of toying with.
yeah, so to flesh that out a bit, as you know, remember there were 16 workstations. There was 4 against the wall, and 4 against the partition, and then 4 in the middle. So the idea is the ones that are next to the wall would be put on, and monitors would be put on an arm that could be swung out, and therefore would make space under the desk for anybody that needs extra room. And also that the computers themselves are a whole lot smaller than they used to be. You're not dealing with towers with big boxes. Now you're dealing with something that basically looks like a book. And that will also free up a lot of space. Yes? Everyone wants to speak to the mic?
Oh, okay, I see the.
Just so we don't have to repeat it.
Hi, I'm Dino from Veterans Club, and I think it's a good plan in a way, but the thing is I'm missing, Mike, is that I see the minis, but they can't be moved, right? They're stationary. Well, how come there's no Apple MacBooks? They're coming down in price pretty soon now. There come new ones out, or some iPads that people can use, possibly. I think those would be a great addition to this. A lot of people have them, and they may want questions on them. You can use them for demonstrations and things like that. That's just my recommendation.
Okay, good thought, because I'm an Apple user. I used to go both ways. So. when I was working. Work? Like a baby each dress. Work? That goes back a long time. I think that's a good point. The point is that Apple MacBooks and tablets and things like that, they're all portable. So this is basically for the base equipment in the lab. And the other ones can always be added on. Remember, you still have $14,000 left. And next year, you're probably going to have close to $22,000 that's ready to expend. So there's no shortage of funds. So I would say that this is perhaps the first major step in what may be a multi-year question of enhancing the equipment in the lab. So yes, I think it's a good point. We don't have a lot of Apple people stepping up to help other things. And somebody said, well, why is that? And I said, well, unfortunately, what happens is the Apple stuff works. I do want to add an anecdote. I've been trying to get my wife's laptop transferred to a desktop, and it turns out that the laptop has 500 gigs, and the desktop only has 250. And I found I had all this junk in it. Apple support spent 2.5 hours with me going through my laptop, her laptop, Mine is much more organized. Judy, do not say word, Judy. You know, so much patience. I mean, somebody spent like 2.5 hours going through a remote line. So they really support things well. But I think it's a good point. I think people are moving in that general direction more as time goes on. But that could be the next step as far as that. Yes.
Two questions. Number one, the new AI and just the general programs that are being upgraded use a lot of sound. I was wondering, are you including microphones?
All right, so the question is whether we're using microphones and audio equipment. Shelley?
Yeah, we currently do have
Wait.
Yeah, the computers we currently have do have microphones, and we do have speakers and headphones available as well, and the new computers will also be doing the same.
Yes, second question.
And new printers?
Wait a second, let me get
That's right. The question is about printers. I don't think we addressed that specifically.
We already have printers, so we're not planning on immediately replacing the printers that we currently have. But you know, certainly we do have you know, funds available in the coming years to replace some of our printers as necessary.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Neil.
Thank you. I echo the gentleman who talked about the Macs, because I know when I come in and help, there's often people look for support from their iPhone to their iPad and everything, getting everything put together. So I think that's a good idea. But what consideration has been given to the disposal of what you have and what costs will be incurred, or what do you plan on doing?
How to dispose of what we have?
And are there going to be costs involved that you haven't talked about?
Yeah, there's no cost in the disposal of equipment. We you know, we're able to recycle. We have a recycling program right now, so you know, all of you are, you know, welcome to bring your old equipment into the lab, and we're able to recycle it for you.
There is some labor costs that probably be done by volunteers of doing the installation of computers. But that's, you know, people generally volunteer that like cook. Anyone else? Any questions about this? Would it be, anybody object to calling a vote? Okay, nobody objects to calling a vote, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we got to look unanimous, Frank.
Yeah.
All right, suspicious.
Can you spell that?
Always busy. Okay, I really want to thank Shelley and the people I mentioned on the subcommittee. They did a lot of work on this. And like I said, we would normally prefer to say we're going to buy exactly this, and this. But the environment is changing so quickly, and the options, that the competition is so strong that they're going to be looking for the best deal. And I also told, I think there was a general consensus that this is no time to save $70. This is the time to really do what really needs to be done, and we spend a couple extra hundred. That's why we created the envelope idea, that we wouldn't exceed this amount without coming back to the membership, and hopefully it'll be less. But the idea is that let's really do this right and do it once properly. So that's there. I know we all have habits. We're all well off, mainly because we haven't figured out how to spend our money. That's a problem. You know, you can't go all your life. Always say, I don't want to. You know, I got a coupon. I guess I got to go to the brunch cafe to save a few dollars, even though they're going to charge me $8 more. We got to get out of that mindset. Okay, and that's it for me. And now I'm going to turn this over to Frank and for the president.
Oh, me.
Excuse me. Well, thank you. Thanks for running the computer. Ken is running the show. Okay, thank you. hard to disclose that, because they have only roll one button. Oh, I'm sorry. I sat down next to Ralph, and Ralph asked me to make an announcement. So somebody stopped me today and said, how did you get pictures of the Northern Lights? And it has to do with the way photography works with apertures and shutter speeds and things like that. And somebody says, well, you should have had a special program. I said, wow, you know. I didn't know until 9 o'clock when my daughter texted me that there were Northern Lights above. So I was out there with my, PJs. There is a special photography program on Monday, the 17th at 1 p.m. I'm taking photos with, in the lab, 1 p.m. Monday, the 17th, for Android and iPhone photography. And it will teach you a little bit about how to get those kinds of shots that we've seen on Facebook. That, and you have to go through with an explanation of what it is. It's not hard. It just needs to have a little bit of attention. So Monday, 1 p.m. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so we were looking for a topic, so I suggested some of the lesser used apps in Google, and that's a good idea, you do it. So, okay, that's why I'm here. Okay, so there's a lot of things in Google. I mean, Google is so large. They use so much. They call it the Google ecosystem. Most people today have a Google account for one reason or another. You have Gmail, or you have an Android phone. There's a lot of reasons for having it. And there's a lot of things you can't do on the internet unless you have a Google account, like YouTube. It saves all your history, it lets you subscribe and comment. Maps, calendar, contacts. One login for Google gets you all of it. Now, and Google has the ability to have multi-factor authentication, or you can have, like your bank and others do, to protect your account. When you log in, you can have it send you a text message to your phone, and then you have to type that in, and it's better security for your account. Now, everybody knows this one, right? This is the standard Google search. And for the most part, you just type something in here, hit enter, and it does a search and gives it back all these responses. But there's so much more on the screen that people don't realize. Now, if you get tired of typing, you can click on the microphone, and if you have a laptop or a tablet, or a desktop that has a microphone, you can just speak, and it'll type it for you. And then you can hit enter, or you can click on AI mode, instead of doing a regular Google search, in AI mode, and it goes out, and you'll be using Gemini, that's Google's AI, and it'll come back with the artificial intelligence response. And I have an example of that on the next slide. We also have here, I'm feeling lucky. Well, sometimes if you type something in there, you can click on I'm feeling lucky, and it'll give you one response that it thinks is the best one, instead of all the ones to wait through. Now, is it always the best one? I don't know. It depends how much people think at the end. But the AI mode is really good. The other thing here is in the middle is Google Lens. I don't know how many people have heard of Google Lens. It does so much for you. I've done it where my daughter gave us a plant. And okay, what is this? And she didn't know what it was. She called it and gave it to us. How to take care of it? I don't know. So, all right, this thing's going to die. So I took a picture of it, and I click on that, and it brings up the screen where you can then just upload that picture, and it comes back with a description, tells you what the plant is, how to care for it, it's everything. So there's so many things. Anytime you see something, what is that? Take a picture of it, and click on there, and it'll tell you what it is. Even I even tried to build it, and it turns out it was some some building in Quebec that, and it searches all the photos and everything, and then it tells you what that is and where it is. That's really cool. Up here about, that's just about Google. The store, they're gonna sell you, Google, Pixel phones and Google watches. Gmail, anybody has Gmail probably knows about that one. Images, that's useful if you're looking for an image for something. You can type, you click on images, and this changes from a regular search to an image search. And look for images that meet the requirements that you typed in here. So if you just want something generic, tigers in line art, or just line drawings of tigers, you just type that in there, image, and it'll give you a whole bunch of line art drawings of tigers. So I've used that for getting line art for designing some 3D printing stuff. And then this one here, I'm really lucky, does more. If you don't type anything in here, and you hover over that, it spins and comes up with all these different possibilities. I'm feeling playful, I'm feeling entertaining. There's all these different words that it puts in there. And it's, if you've got nothing to do, because if you don't have to type anything in there, you're not searching for anything in particular, you just click on one of those and it's going to give you all kinds of stuff that meet that word. So that's a screen that everybody has seen many times, but probably didn't realize all the stuff that's in there.
Again, what's the flask for?
What's that?
The Erlenmeyer flask at the top right, little picture of it. There's a picture of a
Oh.
flask.
The class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read about that, and something about lab something, and I don't know.
Yeah, I never found it.
Okay, here's what I was talking about, where you upload a file. When you click on that Google Lens, you can just drag an image on there or upload a file or paste an image link in there, and it'll do a search on it. Now here's what I was talking about, the Google search versus the AI mode. I said, what's the expected snowfall this year in Huntley? And I did the same exact wording on both. This one said it's expected to be very cold and snowy, but never did say what the expected snowfall is. It just says the average select 31-day snowfall increases toward the end of the season. But now the AI version, the 32 to 38 inches of snow is expected this winter. And that's from AccuWeather. So I'm liking AI more and more. Not that we're going to get 38 inches of snow, although it'll give me a chance to use my new snowball. Okay, Google Maps. A lot of people have used Google Maps, but there's so much in Google Maps that people don't realize. And when I'm going somewhere, I'll use Google Maps. Somewhere I've never been, Google Maps, just type in the address, it shows me the map of that place. And then you can go, I think I might have, you'll get something back on your phone, it'll be like this. I think, that's going too far. Yeah, so you get the map back and you'll see, okay, that's where I have to go. But then you click down in the lower left corner and you'll get a satellite view, an actual photograph of that area. And you can zoom in on that. And I use that to see, okay, what am I going to run into? You know, I have to go down the street. Is there going to be a left turn lane to the parking lot? Is there a traffic light there? You can see all of that on here. And I think, like this, this is a satellite view zoomed in. I was going to one of my favorite computer stores in Westmont, the Micro Center. So you can see here that I'll be coming this way. There's a left turn lane. The white stripes means that there's a traffic light there. And you can probably see that there's the arms. So, okay, there's a traffic light, so there's probably a left turn arrow. I'll be turning into here, and the Micro Center is here somewhere. But it's handy, and then you can down here. That's Street View. Google has had vehicles driving all over the country with this big camera setup on the roof. You may have seen it one. Well, they're photographing everything around as they drive. You really can see trucks next to them sometimes. But that little guy, when you click on that little guy, you drag him up to somewhere on the street. When you click on them, there'll be blue lines on both sides if that has been recorded. So you just click and drag that up here, and you'll get something like that. And so now I can see, okay, there's my left turn lane. When you go on there, there's a traffic light, and there's a lot of lights there, so there's probably a left turn in wrong. And okay, I got to turn into there. And there's a Citgo gas station. I come up to that, that's where I got to turn. And your map will be telling you that this is where you have to turn, but it's nice to have visual cues too. So, yeah, so now I have a better feeling about where I'm going, a little more confident about where I have to go. Let me back up here. And here I talk about choose a satellite view, check out the destination, set the start location and set the directions. Now, I use Google Calendar for all of my appointments and things, so I put in who it is, but also there's a place that has the address, so I put in the address. Nice thing about that is, I go to my calendar and I just click on that address, and it pops up a map. And it shows me where I have to go. And that starts this whole process. So you set the start location, set directions, to map out one or more possible. I'll give you some options for routes. It tells you approximately how long it will take, and it depends on traffic. The time so choose a start route and start navigation. They give you turn-by-turn directions. Gemini, this little icon here is the Gemini icon. It's being added to maps soon. I don't have it on mine yet, not online or on my phone. But they say soon it's coming. It'll make maps conversational. For example, you'll be able to ask Gemini as you're driving, you can say, hey Google, find me a restaurant. And we'll give you a restaurant. I think the example that they give on the next slide is find me a restaurant that has a vegan menu, a budget restaurant or something like that. And it gave an option. It tells, okay, yeah, go there, and they navigate that. Let's see, I wasn't able to find it on the mobile app, but the desktop version will actually allow you to set a start time for your trip. So tomorrow we're going to be leaving at 2 o'clock, and set a start time, and you can send that to your phone, and it'll give you directions based on that time of day, because it's also taking into account the traffic during that time of day. I'll often map out a trip on the desktop, and then send the route to my phone. Just click on send to phone, and send it off via email, text message, or via the Google Maps app on the phone if you're signed in with the same Google account. So that makes it very easy to just say send the phone, and you take out your phone, and put the little red dot there, and icon, and just tap on that, and it'll bring up that map that you sent. You spent your time laying that all out on your computer, your laptop, your desktop, and just send it to the phone, and you don't have to sit there playing with your phone. It makes it very convenient. So here's a sample of it on your phone. Now, here's where it's navigating you to go here. It'll tell you, turn right to 300 feet. And then when you're getting closer, it'll say, turn right at the traffic light, or turn right at the stop sign, or whatever, or at the next intersection. Click one of those. Now, with Gemini, which is that'll be the icon that will appear when Gemini is available. That will give you more information. It'll tell you, turn right after the Thai Siam restaurant. So it'll give you better clues on where to turn. Here's what I'm talking about. Hey Google, is there a budget-friendly restaurant with vegan options within a couple miles? I gave them that, budget-friendly restaurant with vegan options. Cobain Cafe. And they said, what's parking like at the cafe? And he told them, and he said, okay, let's go there. So it changes navigation to pick in that restaurant. And then at the end, he adds, hey Google, oh yeah, okay Google, can you also add a calendar event for Lily's soccer practice tomorrow for 5 p.m.? Add that to your calendar. So they're really making a conversation. I talked about this before. I don't think they did anything to add. But you have these other things, other maps too that you can see. You look at terrain, a traffic map to see if there's heavy traffic or not, transit systems, bicycling, and then look to see what's under more. But a lot of things hidden in these simple applications. Now Google Timeline. This in a way is scary, but I kind of like it. Now this, the timeline tracks your location history while you're carrying your phone. So it remembers every place you go. Now, this was a 2-week Alaska trip, July 21st through August 7th, 2019. So that's still out there. I just downloaded this. Now they have changed it though. You were able to get it on your desktop computer or your tablet. I don't think it's looking at the tablet, but they've restricted it now to your mobile phone. So that was available. You can really zoom in on it. And it was really scary because we flew from Fairbanks, and it told me what time we arrived in Fairbanks, what time we got on a bus to get to the hotel, what time we arrived at the hotel, what time we left the hotel, and walked, and then we walked to Aloha restaurant. Aloha in Alaska. And all those times and how long we were at the restaurant, all of that. Okay, that's really freaky. But a nice thing is afterwards, going through my photos, we're going to take this and the photo will have some location data in it. But this actually told you the name of the place that you were at. And it was really, I thought, well, that's pretty nice. So that's another cool thing, timeline. And then that's, if you go, I'm sure it's on that. Let me back up a few. Okay, this grid here, that's what you click on to bring down the list of all of the Google apps. And there's a bunch of them. Most of the ones that I'm talking about are on there. But when you get to the bottom of that, there's more. Click on that and it'll take you to a web page that has even more things. So there's so much to Google. And then this icon here, I was on the computer close, that computer. So that's the icon for that. Click on that, and that's your account settings. So you can get to add another account or change some of your account settings. So that's I think about all I have on this. Okay, now how to check your Google Maps history timeline. Check where you've been, the places visited, routes taken, kind of like a digital scrapbook. Open Google Maps on your phone, and tap your profile. That's your little icon picture there. Tap your timeline from the menu, your timeline, and then see your trips, places visited, and the routes. You can scroll through those, and like I say, it goes way back. So.
Which was the profile? Let's see.
It depends. It could be if you've got a picture on your Google account, it'll be that picture. If you don't have a picture, it'll be your first initial. That'll be the first initial, the first name, I believe. Location history must be turned on to your Google account timeline to work. Now, you can turn this off. If you're really worried about it, you can go into your Google account and you can turn this off. The timeline is private, you can edit or delete items. You don't want somebody to be able to then nobody else can look at this but you. But if you're afraid somebody's gonna get in your computer, you can find out the places you've been, you can delete those. There was something here that said something about going to a website to do that, but I had to redact that because that's no longer real. Translate. Google Translate can translate text or voice from or to 265 languages. I counted them. Text can be typed or copied. You can copy and paste it into Translate, or by clicking on the microphone and speaking into it. You'll record continuously until you click on the microphone again to turn it off. It does the Translate live while you're speaking. So the windows look like this. Now, I said, okay, what would the weather be like today in Huntley? And I've done in English, and I'm translate to Spanish. As I'm saying that, it's typing that out. Now, you sort of, well, how can I say that? You just click on the mic, on the speaker, and it'll speak it for you. Or if you don't want to speak it, you can just hold up the person you want to ask and just hit the button and they can hear it correctly. So, and again, here you get a couple languages and detect language. So if you type in some other language, it'll attempt to detect what language that is and just translate it to whatever language it's asking for here. And it did that down here. Now, I had it set for English, and I found this on some page, and I thought, okay, this is a good test. And I pasted it in there, and it changed this to Chinese simplified. It says detected, so this one detected. And that's it for English, and that, if you try and speak it, it's that. And so you can hit the speaker, and it'll say it to you, so okay, I'm not gonna try to say that. But that translated in English says, I can't understand this instruction manual, can you help me assemble this bookshelf? So, I'm really impressed by this. I don't have much use for it, but if you do, if you're traveling or so many, I should have put up a list of all the languages. But if you go into Google Translate, then that's the list of, when you click on that little grid, Translate is one of the apps that will show up there. You can click on that, you can go in there, you can just click on this down arrow, and it'll show you all the languages that will translate. Languages I've never heard of. Google Voice. Now, I used this some years ago, but and it's nice, it's useful. If you want to know the phone number, every place you go today, they want your phone number. I don't want to give everybody your phone number. You get a dummy phone number from here, and just give them that number. And if they call, they can call and leave a message. And you can check it once in a while if you want. But it's a service from Google that gives you a phone number to make calls, send texts, and manage voicemail over the internet. So you can actually send and receive text messages with it too. It works across the web, Android and iOS. Now all these apps, they work on Android, on Windows, on Apple, everything. And Linux, if you have Linux, as long as you have the Google, you go to the Google website, or you can use these. It can be used for both personal and business communication. So anything. Free US phone number. Now you don't have a choice. You can't pick the number that you want. I mean, you can pick it, but they'll give you a list of the numbers you can pick from. You can't set it to the number, the exact number that you want.
And it's absolutely free?
Free.
Man.
And cross-device sync, use the same number on your computer, tablet, and phone. So you can have the app running on your phone and your computer. And you can use them both. And I tried it. I got a screenshot on the computer. Voicemail transcription converts voicemails into text so you can read them. So you know, in your Gmail account, you'll have the text for a voicemail. I get that now for, I think, someone gives me a Comcast voicemail. spam filtering, they have great spam filtering. Because the Google account that I have, I really don't use that account. I don't remember why I got it. But there's some stuff that I've subscribed to that shows up in there, not much. But there isn't a lot of spam. So if you're looking for an email account that doesn't get a lot of spam, Gmail is pretty good at that. Yes.
So if I don't have Google, but if I wanted to use it internationally, if I travel outbound.
I don't have Google Voice, but if I travel outside the country, I took my phone, didn't want to bother buying a plan to let my phone be used in Europe or wherever I was. Could I use Google Voice to call back into the States or anywhere from internationally?
Well, it says for personal users in the US. I don't know if if the US would work. Now, what I have done is, you've heard of Magic Jack? My son was living in Luxembourg for a couple of years, and I gave him a Magic Jack. And with Magic Jack, you can choose, again, you can't choose the exact number that you use, but you can choose the location. Now, he lived in Portland, Oregon. Now, his friends were in Portland, Oregon, because he lived there. So he chose Portland Exchange, and so they could just call a Portland number, and they're talking to him in Luxembourg. And that, a Magic Jack is like $50, $40, $50 a year. And I was using that like the replacement for a landline. And it worked very well. I was impressed with that little cost.
Yeah, Ken, I got Google Voice as my home phone, and it works fine.
Okay. Yeah,
Google Voice, I have it for 8 years, and I don't pay anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. And you can, I think, I don't know if I talked about it here. No, that's the same. You can forward that number that they give you to your cell phone. So if somebody calls that number, it'll ring on your cell phone. And I think you can actually have it go to multiple numbers. So if they call that, they can go to your cell phone and your landline if you have that. Question.
Can they trace back that free phone number? You know, if you have kids who look to be bullying or something like that, and they get a phone number that's untraceable, that could be a little dangerous. Can that phone number be traced back?
I don't know. I would imagine so, because everything on the internet is traceable.
Okay.
If I try to download some illegal music from some other country, Sony gets word of it, or a movie, they can trace that back. They would go back to Comcast, and that's where my internet is through. And they say, okay, what IP address was using, accessing this site at this time? And they would say, oh, well, this IP address, and who had that? And well, Kanzerowski had that. And so then, and years ago, I had gotten a letter from Sony.
And I don't know about the actual, when somebody's tracking or bullying or whatever, but one of the things this does that's really important, because I know it's like, I got reminded of it as I was calling technicians who were new people or new volunteers, and 2 or 3 of the people had a Google number, and I realized what it was. And it screens your calls. It says, you called so-and-so, and let me check and see if he's available. And you wait, because it says, he's available, but he's busy right now, just leave a message, or he's gonna have to call you back or something. Basically, they just, if you're not supposed to get through, it'll give you a nice friendly message that basically says go away. I mean, it doesn't really say go away, but it's like, you get the idea that I'm gonna have to call back later. So it does the screening, which is really important, and I think that would help, because somebody that's gonna be prank calling, we're not gonna go through it, they're just gonna hang up and go away. So I think that would take care of it. But try it, I kind of forgot about it. I had it like 10 years ago, and I kind of forgot about it.
You gotta realize that it knows who you are from your Google account that you signed in one time on Google,
Yeah, so, it's, I think it's really nice, and again, you know, like Jerry, I've been using it for a while, and then I just got away from it. But it's,
Well, just on a further thought on that, doesn't Google know all of us? Don't they know?
Google knows so much about you, you agree with me. That's what you're most about. And now with AI, it's even worse. Because I've been using AI for diagnosing some computer problems, and I've been using Copilot. And there's different levels of Copilot. It's not on, but you can actually get ChatGPT in Copilot. But one day I asked it something, and it said, well, yeah, we can do that, and we can design about 3D printing. So we can design that for you, keeping in mind the at the time I only had 3 printers. The 3 printers we have, and the name the Ender 3, the CR10, and the Cubic. Oh, wow, we really have all those. So then I thought, oh, okay, what do you know about me? And it really blew me away.
Wow.
It knew a lot about me, more than I ever expected. So I think we're almost at the end of this. But yeah, spam filtering is great in Gmail. Now this is what Google Voice
Just
looks like.
1 second. With regard to that Google tracking, just do a little homework on Apple stuff, because Apple, if you're on Safari, it'll come back, and if you go into your Safari account, it'll show you, it'll say things like, I love this. Google prevented 153 sites from tracking you yesterday, or this month, or whatever. It's pretty interesting. Even if you don't agree it's the best system, you need to find something like that, because it keeps you from getting tracked by everybody that you don't want.
Yeah, I was going to mention that Apple does a similar kind of thing as far as keeping track of the places you go, but not to such intense detail. It's a little less detail.
I just wanted to say one thing. I got my utility bill, and on the utility bill, it tracked how I was using my electricity. And it actually broke it out. So much on the computer, so much on the refrigerator. So it was a gas. Because that to me is scary. Are they going to tell me when I should best use my computer?
Well, they're kind of doing that anyway, because they're asking you to not do certain things at a certain time, like your heating and air conditioning during the real hot days. Anyway, this is what Google Voice looks like. Gives you like the keypad, typing the number, and you can. This was on my desktop, so I could sit there with a mouse and just click. The number. Clicking up here, this is where you enter the number. And you just do that, or you can just use the keypad or the numbers on the keyboard to type in the number yourself. Or you can click on one of these. I redacted the phone numbers over here. But you just click on one of these and it would call that number again. And then you got the different things. Here's your voice, your text messaging, your voicemail, and then like download. I didn't try those things. But really, this is pretty cool. Suggestions? I don't know. This I think this is out of your contacts. But it's can be very useful. And that's about it. So, if we have any further questions? No? We pretty much took care of it. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, anything else anyone wants to bring up before we adjourn? Oh, yes, Steve.
Did we vote on the equipment?
We did? Give a second, Steve. We got you in the minutes already. Sure. Yes, Dave.
The lab is open after the
And I think we stopped, we're not doing that because we had added Tuesday and Wednesday. So we didn't know how long, these kinds of meetings would go, and it puts a lot of pressure on people to get over there and things like that. So I think there will not be labs after these sessions, but keep in mind, we also added Tuesday and Wednesday every week. So that's, I think, more than makes up for it. Okay? All right, well, thank you, everyone.